Hey guys, Nicole here with Obscure Reptiles and Caging, and today we're doing a video for people who want to start breeding ball pythons. So let's get started. Hey guys, so this is a video for people who want to start out breeding ball pythons. We've done a whole bunch of videos like full breeding guides. We have one that is a 3-part series, and then we combine them all together into one video. We've gone over all different kind of morphs, stuff like that, but this video is for somebody who decides, you know what, I think I want to breed ball pythons. What do I need to know? What should I start out with? And I get people asking all the time what they should breed. So we're going to go over everything right now for people who want to start out. So this right here, I'm not going to hold for too long because she just actually had her first shed. This is a little female from our clutch. We did a cinnamon pied to a pastel pinstripe enchi pied, and she is a cinnamon and at least cinnamon pinstripe. She might also be enchi. She's anything but pastel because she's got no green eyes, but she's got crazy colors if she can hold still. Her head's dark, it goes to light, and then she's got a brown spot inside here also. The reason I have her out, you guys, is because my #1 recommendation is figure out what snakes you think look cool and you want to produce before you do anything. I have a lot of people who, let's say, get a male as a pet and they go, I want to breed it. He's a pastel, what do I get? So the first thing to recommend is make sure you learn your genetics. So things like her, she's a pied. If somebody's starting out, I always recommend starting with a project like a pied or a clown. The reason I say that is because they make a really good amount of money. You do have to put a little bit into them, but you can go all over the place with genetics. Like she's a pied with multiple genes in her, and she looks absolutely insane. So what I'm going to say is make sure you know what you want to create. So if you have a very simple gene like a male that's just a pastel, he's an enchi, one gene animal that's very inexpensive. The nicest way to put it is an animal that's not really in high demand, so they're very cheap. So like pastel, just an enchi, just a yellow belly, just a 1 gene simple male. Honestly, you probably don't want to breed that. It might be cool because you love that animal, but you have to think, if you produce these overproduced genetics that are very simple, very cheap, who do you sell it to? The random person who normally doesn't do as much research. You can find good people who want that simple gene animal, but most of the time, those really cheap, really simple gene animals, people kind of do them as an impulse purchase. When if you make something like this, it's a little bit more expensive. It's not crazy high end, but somewhere in the middle. A lot of times people will care for them a little bit better. That's just in my experience. It's not saying everyone, it's not saying anyone who buys a cheap snake is not going to take care of it, but there are a lot of people who don't want to do their research. Make sure you have an animal that's worth breeding. But let me put her back, just because she is just a baby. Don't want to stress her out too much. But if you guys have any ideas what I should name her, I will be keeping this little girl, especially to prove out what she is. But she's a sweetheart, cinnamon, pinstripe, possibly enchi. But definitely put in the comments below what I should name, because I'm terrible at naming them. Now, if you've decided you definitely want to breed and you have something that is worth breeding, make sure you totally understand the genetics inside or out. Make sure you can tell someone if they ask if it's recessive, if it's dominant, if it's co-dominant. If you don't know what any of those are, we do videos on all of those, or a simple Google search or other videos. They explain it so much better, and it's way easier to be able to understand and comprehend. So you want to make sure that you understand what you're producing, you understand who you're going to sell it to. For example, if you've never bred before, you don't know how to sell them, and your plan is, let's say, Craigslist. Well, you can't always rely on Craigslist because you're technically not supposed to breed and post animals to Craigslist, so they can get flagged. So you can't really rely on that. So do you have a website? Do you have local people who are interested in purchasing that stuff? Do you have a pet store that can work out a deal with you? Do you have a morph market? You want to make sure you have a place to be able to sell them before breeding them. I also get people all the time who get their first baby and they're like, oh cool, awesome, I'll definitely breed this in the future. Well, you have to realize that your cute little baby pet ball python is going to turn into a big 5 or 6 foot, very large ball python, which is totally cool and awesome, but you need those cages. So what I always recommend is you're going to need a hatchling rack, which, we'll post a picture right here. You need a hatchling rack. You need something like one of these back here that can hold 12 quart and 28 quart. You need something that can hold then a 41 quart for your adult females. And you need something like an incubator, like that right there. Before you even decide to breed, make sure you can even get those things. I get people all the time when I was building cages saying, yeah, I need an incubator right now, I've got eggs. Well, most of the time I can't drop everything and make something like that, or I need the material, or there's a wait list. So you kind of have to make sure you are 100% prepared. You have the incubator. You've already set it up, even though you have no eggs. That right there is 100% ready to go. It's got the thermostat set. We've tested it out, but you want to do that before you get eggs because you want to make sure your eggs have some place to go. If all your eggs go bad because you took 3 days to set up your incubator and the temperatures were all over the place or too hot or too cold, you just lost all those babies and you can't do it again for another year. So make sure you have everything set up, even down to the hatchling rack, because sometimes, like let's say you want to order from Animal Plastics. Well, they're a year wait list, 8 months to 12 months on a lot of their stuff, or at least they were. So you can't really rely on, getting something right away. So build up your supplies, make sure you have everything dialed in. Make sure you know simple things like what happens as soon as you get a baby ball python hatching out of an egg. You have to take it, put it in an enclosure, like a 6-quart bin, spray it down and mist it so it's wet. Not soaking wet, but damp until it has its first shed. If not, that baby's not going to shed, and you're going to already mess up that baby before it even had a chance. Especially for people who want to get into this, I would recommend personally not only having had snakes for at least a few years, so you know their whole cycle, you know that you're willing to do live or frozen mice or rats, because sometimes things will change. Know that sometimes you may have to assist feed, you might have to force feed, you may have to take them to the vet, you might have to do things like if they become egg bound, you're going to have to, make sure you have a vet that's local that can help you with that kind of stuff. You might get things like a respiratory infection. If you don't have perfect temperatures, you might end up with things like mites. So make sure you always have a preventative. Make sure you have a plan for those things. Again, all of these things people hear about, but I don't think they ever actually prepare for it, because I hear people all the time, well, yeah, no, I want to get my first snake, and I hear from them again 6 months later, oh yeah, I got 20 snakes, it's awesome, I don't know why half of them are sick, or I don't know how to get rid of mites now, or they just jump in 100% before preparing and getting everything, which is okay as long as you have all the stuff you need. So if you're starting out now, even if you've already gotten to the point where you've got a bunch and you're already starting to breed but you don't have the stuff you need yet, kind of put a pause on everything and make sure you do have stuff. For example, I started getting ball pythons about 15 years ago now, and it took me about 5 years to grow up babies. So I had the whole experience of younger snakes all the way to breeding size. And then I waited till everyone was 5 or 6. So they were well bigger than they needed to be for breeding, but I wasn't prepared yet. I didn't have, because you kind of have to set your whole year aside for, brumation, breeding, eggs, babies, selling, brumation. You kind of, there's a whole cycle. I did a whole, on their breeding guide video, I show the entire year cycle of these guys. But it's not just you pair them, you get babies, you're done. If you want to do it, especially on a larger scale, you want all of your snakes to have eggs, you kind of have to stick to this cycle, and there's a lot of steps to it. So it's not something that's super easy. It is something that can be easy if you learn all the steps and you do it properly, but you want to make sure that, you're going the distance and you are prepared for what happens. Because a lot of people get overwhelmed. They go from nothing to 100 really quick, and then they're like, oh yeah, I'm just going to sell everything within just like a year or two because they get too much too quick. And I'm not telling anyone not to get a bunch. I'm just saying make sure you are prepared for all the stuff. Like for example, I also have the Ackies and a couple of boas, but with my ball pythons, especially in breeding season, I'm spending a few hours down here a day between taking care of the regular adults, taking care of all the regular lizards, stuff like that. And then baby season, you're spraying all the bins, you're collecting eggs, you're making sure those moms are feeding, and you're just doing everything. So just make sure that you are prepared to spend a lot of time. But if you want to start out, I would start out small. I would start out with, personally, I would say something like a clown or a pied, or a het clown or het pied, stuff like that, and breed them together, because they normally, anywhere between $250 to $350 are the price of the baby. So, it's worth the effort and stuff you're going to put into it. Again, especially because it's like a year of your life. Plus, to make it easy, you can do something like get a stack of, like, let's say you don't like racks. Let's say you like cages like this. You can perfectly easily get a stack of cages like this, if you're getting adults, and put them in there. And you can have, you know, 1 male, 2 or 3 females. Now you've got a little breeding group, and that's all that you're gonna need. Except for, you still need the baby, you need the hatchling rack, still need the smaller 12 and 28 quart, and you're still gonna need the incubator, stuff like that. Or you can get bigger racks and start out like that. But if you really wanna start out small. Maybe get 1 or 2 females, get 1 male, try it 1 or 2 years and seasons, because that takes a whole year, and see if you like it before you jump in and go, wow, this like is a great idea. Let's get 50 of them. You know, even if you've only got, let's say, 10 snakes, but each of them have 5 or 10 babies, now you're up to 100 animals, and you have to have the rodents for that. You probably should breed your own, which is a hassle, but it's the cheapest and it's the only way to ensure you have what you need, because if you rely on somebody else and they stop breeding, or a pet store doesn't have them in stock, it ends up being a huge hassle, especially if it's like, let's say it's mid-breeding season, all your snakes are super hungry, shouldn't be missing meals, and now you have no food for them for a month. You kind of have to breed rodents if you're going to breed snakes. Not always, but normally it's a lot easier. Again, make sure you get what you like, make sure you're having fun with it, but I also get people who message and say things like, here's a picture, what is my snake? And I say, oh, it's a yellow belly, or, you know, whatever it is. Okay, cool, I think I want to breed it. Well, if you don't even know what it is, you don't know where it came from, or the breeder who bred the animal, you probably shouldn't breed the animal. No offense. I mean, if it's a great, awesome personality snake, and some people say they want to breed it because it's such a sweet snake, just enjoy your super sweet snake, you know, and love and appreciate that, because that snake can live up to 40 years. You can have a snake 20, 30, 40 years if well cared for. So, you know, it's a very long commitment. So maybe don't breed if you just kind of want, you know, the cute, fun experience. You can easily go purchase a baby anywhere and raise it up and miss the really hard steps. But you know, make sure you're coming from a good place. This isn't a make money quick thing at all. You can make money, but it's going to cost a lot of money. You have to spend it to make it. Not only do you need, you know, a crazy awesome setup, you need people who want to purchase from you. People all the time say, oh yeah, I've already got 3 snakes, I'm going to breed them, I'll make all my money back. Well, you might, unless those snakes don't have eggs for you this year, and then next year they only produce 2 or 3. You know, or if they're they get sick along the way and then they can't breed, they're underweight. It's all a guessing game. Make sure you're doing this because you love it. Again, I'm not telling anyone not to breed. I'm not telling anyone all the stuff they're doing is wrong. I'm just saying I have had quite a few experiences over the last 10 years where, you know, people kind of jump in all the way before they are prepared. There's nothing wrong with building up your supplies, building up your knowledge, having fun with an animal for, like, you know, a few years, 3, 4, 5 years, then going, I think I want to breed, and getting another baby, growing it up, taking the time to love and appreciate those animals, love and appreciate, you know, the hobby, the community that's involved in this. You know, go to reptile shows, decide maybe I want to vend these. This all sounds great. Instead of just deciding within just a few months and jumping all the way in and then getting overwhelmed. Because then the animals are what suffer. Not trying to hurt anyone's feelings. I'm just saying the things that I have experienced, and I always put the animals first. So make sure you're coming at this from a good place. If you guys have any questions, you can put them in the comments below. If you haven't already, please subscribe. We do new videos every other Wednesday, and I'll see you guys on a Wednesday.